Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode 103 today for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Season 6. If you guys did miss the previous one at Monaco, then be sure to go check that one out. A very chaotic one with 3 safety cars in that, but as you can clearly see right now, we're starting this episode in a bit of a different area of the game, one that we're not used to in 2020. This was obviously usually the place we started off the 2019 career modes, and actually you can see myself working at my own team, even though I'm, from the point of view, me at the moment from this seat. Very, very odd, but there we go. But anyway, yeah, unfortunately, I actually did all the kind of usual intro bits and kind of the usual admin of my team without actually hitting record by accident. So I have to talk you through what I've already done effectively and what we missed into this part of the video. So my apologies for that. But anyway, what we did do at the very start of this episode and before we came to this part of the race weekend where we've loaded into the paddock area of Azerbaijan is we did purchase the final engine upgrade and indeed the final performance upgrade that we can control on the car. So apart from the engine upgrades that Mercedes themselves will be giving us over the course of the season and the durability upgrades, we do actually have a maxed out car now with the max we can do on every side of the tree: chassis, aero, and engine. Of course, aero was there from the get-go. Chassis and engine did get reset, and we've done some great work to, it's only, what was it, round 4 or 5, and we're already here now with a maxed out car, apart from obviously those last few Mercedes upgrades, which will take some time, literally till the end of the season until those will come in, but eventually when they do, we will have a pretty decent engine. Right now, we're still a little bit underpowered compared to the Works team, and especially actually Racing Point, which remain the best Mercedes-powered car team on the grid. But anyway, looking into this Grand Prix, of course, if we look back at the last episode, it was a very tough one for us. Clearly, you can see there with P11, tough day in the office. Of course, we made a lot of mistakes in terms of the strategy maybe there around Monaco, and then also it was a case of just getting unlucky as well behind the safety car with having an incident with Lance Stroll and getting 5 seconds on that, because I think we would have got a few points anyway if it wasn't for that 5-second penalty. But it was a bit of an admin error in terms of making that extra pit stop for the front wing change. But I think, those of you that were, quite quick to criticize that move, I would say you can say a lot of things in hindsight. In the heat of the moment, a few seconds to make a decision, I honestly thought, I might lose too much time with the front wing damage. Maybe I may have not, and I should have stayed out, but that happens in racing sometimes. You move on and you kind of just go on with the next race. So we're going to forget about Monaco and we're going to move on to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which could be a very good Grand Prix for us, because even though we're maybe not the best Mercedes-powered team on the grid, our car is still very good in a straight line. And I feel like this season, our car, even though it's, it's the same My Team car over the seasons, but there's this kind of weird kind of mental effect that you get from season to season with R&D being reset, having different liveries, and just having a different teammate. There's just a bit of a mental thing that I felt like, mentally, the car has maybe just not felt that as good in the corners as it maybe did, even though it is the exact same car now, maxed out. And I feel like our car, we've been making more kind of gains on other teams in a straight line. Maybe that is just due to the Mercedes power unit. Maybe the power unit is making the drivability different. We hear in real life sometimes power units are more drivable than others. The Honda has historically been quite a tough one to handle in terms of the way it gears up, out of the corners and into the corners. So maybe it's a case of the Mercedes engine just a little bit different. I'm still getting used to the drivability of the power unit compared to what I was used to with Renault, with Honda in the first few seasons of this career mode. But I think we should be able to go well around here, but we're going to have stiff competition. The R&D doesn't lie. All the teams are so close together, and as always, it's going to be, decided by a mere few tenths, maybe even thousands of a second when it comes to qualifying. And speaking of, we're well underway now on Saturday in Q1, setting our one and only lap time we're going to need to get through, and we're at the sharp end there with Charles Leclerc, the new championship leader. He's yet to win a race this season, but he's been very consistent. I think that he's never been outside the top 6, I think. And I think actually he's got 1 P6, and the rest of his positions have been actually on the podium, either second or third. So very consistent stuff there from the world champion from season 2, if you remember. together. And with a 10-point lead, that's quite a sizable chunk to be leading in the championship that is this close, if you kind of base it off how close things were last season all the way through. We had like, a 4 to 5 way battle for most of the season in Season 5, and I expect the same thing here, as it started off just as close. You've got myself, Gasly, so close to it together, Verstappen in there, Sainz, all the other drivers. It's so fine. And it's not just the margins on track, it's the actual points in the standings. But Q2 then, this is where it matters for, in terms of, if you're on the bubble. I don't think we should be. Hopefully we'll just come to make it through. But for our teammate, Lewis Hamilton, let's see if he can try and match the same sort of pace he had at Monaco. Remember, he out-qualified us at Monaco, and he does make it through. He's in P3, and now Leclerc no longer on top. We're top of the session, and Norris in P2, Ocon P5, so the McLaren's looking quite strong. And the opposite can be said for Dan Ricciardo and also Giovinazzi. So two of the kind of the second drivers, I guess you could say, from the Red Bull Ferrari teams knocked out. And also Verstappen as well. This has been a very topsy-turvy Q2, actually. It's a strong one for us, strong one for McLaren and for Leclerc for Ferrari. But dismal stuff for Verstappen to be knocked out after winning the Monaco Grand Prix. He's P11, Giovinazzi P12, Ricciardo all the way down in P14 in a Red Bull that has been, I don't know, somewhat strong. Obviously, he did win the Spanish Grand Prix in the hands of Sainz, but it's been quite up and down, I guess, of a season so far for Red Bull. But yeah, that's actually quite a shock then. So some surprises, including both AlphaTauris that have made it in. So this is going to be quite an interesting top 10 shootout then for pole position. Both McLaren's looking strong, Leclerc up there, Gasly and Mercedes on the back foot with Verstappen knocked down. Gasly actually got out-qualified by Stroll there in Q2. Obviously, I know things can change, but, maybe he's on the back foot. Maybe Mercedes are not looking as strong as they want to. And Racing Point, they did bring upgrades this weekend, I believe, on the R&D chart. And Stroll showing some good pace. So let's see how this is going to go in the first swing, the first outing on that first flying lap. We're down in P3 to 4 now as we start the second flyer. At the moment, Ocon's ahead of us, Stroll as well. Leclerc is actually behind us in P6. So it's been a shocker of a first run for the Ferrari man, and I don't even know who's on provisional pole as it stands right now, so we're going to have to see how we go towards the end of this session. Qualifying is complete, the checkered flag falls, and at the moment we're down to P7, Hamilton P9, so we need to make this lap count. We do gain nearly 3 tenths or 2 tenths through the castle section. Very good second sector, purple indeed, across the line green. It's been a very good lap to improve from that first run, and it's enough to get pole position out of nowhere. I did not think we were going towards pole, but we've bagged pole position, and you know what? Ignore what I said. Pierre Gasly has come strong when it mattered. Mr. Qualifying from seasons 4 and 5, and look how close it is. 600ths of a second between myself and him. Really actually quite nice in a way. Obviously, we had a very nice rivalry, I must say, on this game in the last 2 seasons, so really cool to see us staying at the forefront of Formula 1, but a very shocking pole. Obviously, you guys know I'm not much of a qualifier anyway on the F1 games, but to bag pole out of nowhere like that, I thought we were maybe aiming for the second row best, considering how far down the order we went off that first run. But very surprising qualifying with Leclerc down in P8 behind an AlphaTauri, Bottas in P5. Sainz has done a blinder to get that Red Bull in P3, considering his teammate was qualifying down in P14. So we have a very interesting race on our hands with the top 5 covered by 2 tenths. If it's going to be that close in the race, then it is really going to be an absolute corker. And obviously this track really invites a lot of good racing, at least in the game, as well as real life, to be fair, with the amount of slipstreaming we can do on the main straight. So let's go to the grid. Behind me, there are plenty of people trying to gun for their first race win, but can we try and convert this surprising pole into a second win of the season for us? Let's find out.
And a warm welcome to you from Azadlik Square, heart of Baku and home, of course, to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With high speeds, tight corners and few runoff zones, many are expecting a safety car here today, so our drivers will have to stay very much on their toes and hopefully away from the barriers. Baku City Circuit then, an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. And I'm joined once again by Anthony Davidson to bring you the lowdown for today's race. Why don't we talk about Ferrari? We have a number of changes to the aerodynamic regulations this year, and the signs haven't looked good for them so far in terms of getting to grips with those changes.
It doesn't look promising for them so far. And if the new regs have hit them as hard as we think, well, I suspect they may need a few late nights at the factory to get back on track.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. It's the owner-driver in pole position then, and it's Pierre Gasly in P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Bottas, Lance Stroll and Leclerc, Hamilton, De Vries, Verstappen and Antonio Giovinazzi, Albon, Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo and Kvyat, Matsushita, Russell, Esteban Ocon and Jack Aitken, Latifi, Magnussen, Giotto and Mick Schumacher. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
Right, so before we get into the race then, in today's video, just need to address something you're definitely going to notice throughout the race. Now, we started off the video with a bit of a rough edge, with me forgetting to hit record when I was doing all the kind of admin in the My Team menus. Well, unfortunately, at the end of this race, my game decided to crash in a way and not load into the next race result menu. And effectively, I was almost going to lose the race. Thankfully, I kind of, ever since this happened last season, I think it was, or the season before, I've started to do a mid-session save at the end of every single last lap of the Grand Prix. So thankfully I was able to actually save the race, but you'll notice there are going to be no replay cameras because of the mid-session save, making it impossible basically to record anything. It doesn't allow you to do that anymore once you've done that mid-session save. So just bear that in mind. So we're going to kind of have a more basic sort of video today in today's career mode. We're just all kind of on board from me, but I guess some of you might enjoy that. But I definitely enjoy having that aesthetic of having a proper, like, you know, kind of almost TV style kind of visual to it. But unfortunately that can't happen with that, but thankfully we actually get to keep the race, and you can see by the title of the video it ends up being an absolute bonkers one. But anyway, let's talk about the strategy then today. It is going to be either a 1 or a 2 stop. Now I'm going to favor the 2 stop because not only has it been the way to go this season, it seems like, you know, with the tyre wear being a little bit more for some reason than the previous seasons, it seems to be their way to go. It's worked out for us at Zandvoort, worked out for Sainz in Spain, but also historically actually on this game the 2 stop has been very good if you have the pace. If you have the pace around Azerbaijan, the 2 stop is definitely the faster way to go, because on the softer medium compound you just have that much better traction out of every single 90-degree corner, and there's so many of those at this circuit. And we've got pole today, so I think we do have the pace, and with how close things are, I think a lot of people are going to ultimately be doing the 2 stop, and we can't afford to slip behind them if we don't go for it and we kind of go onto that slower, hard compound tyre. So that's the plan today. But off pole, Gasly on my left-hand side. We've got a load of quick people behind it. It's going to be a very tough order, but we'll certainly try our best and see what we can do from what is obviously the best place to be ahead of a Formula 1 race. P1, let's see if we can end it off that way. We had a very dismal time at Monaco. We need to make up for it. Here we go to 5 red lights, and we're underway for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. A bit of wheel spin to contend with off the 5 red lights. We go defensive into turn 1. Gasly on the outside, but we've got the measure of him. We're going to give him a little bit of a squeeze on the right, then keep our line on the inside to defend the next corner. Gasly again tries it around the outside, unable to make it work though, so we maintain our race lead then ahead of Gasly. Norris in a close 3rd place, Stroll up into P4 with Bottas in P5, and Latifi already out this Grand Prix. Gasly sends one down the inside, and he's hit us. Gasly's made some contact with us. We almost hit the right-hand side of the wall. We now make some contact with him, back for good measure, but Gasly's forced his way through with a very over-aggressive move in my opinion, and now we've lost all composure. We've locked up on the front left, and now Norris is nearly past us. We go very, very hard on him on the right-hander, and we're able to just about hold on to P2, but Gasly, our former teammate, former bitter rival from last season, with a very over-aggressive move in my opinion in turn 3 to get the job done. He's up into P1. We chase after him now in P2. P2 looking to try and get within that 1 second when the DRS is now activated in this Grand Prix. But behind us, what did I say? Very quick people. And look at that on the top left. Stroll and Norris are swapping name tags on the ladder. And so they're side by side in turns 1 and 2. So unfortunately, with no replay cameras, I'm going to have to do my best to audibly describe to you what's happening around us away from what you can see on our onboard. But right now, what you can see on our onboard is us going for the race lead with the fast lap of the Grand Prix for good measure on lap number 4. DRS really aiding us there. Patience needed basically through that last sector just to make sure we hold on to that main straight to get the job done, and we're back up into the race lead. You can see maybe a little bit of the pressure getting to me, making some mistakes there on the left-hander, locking up, and also the tyres, to be fair, just going off already as I lock up again very badly on the front left. And we're lap 4. You know, we're only 1 or 2 laps away from that first pit stop on the 2-stop, and honestly, it looks like it's the good call. I need the 2-stop because I am very much struggling on these softs. And look who's not struggling though, is Norris, who's just sent one around the outside of Gasly up into P2. So the Brit is up into the second place. Yes, he is. He's finished the move off, and Gasly is now having to actually fight the racing points because look at the top left, Stroll's overtaken him. So Gasly is falling away after such a strong, aggressive start. He's fallen down to P4 in a racing point sandwich, and they're looking mega in this race. The upgrades must have really worked out from this race weekend because Stroll's in P4 and Albon is P5. Meanwhile, Norris going for the race lead, but it's futile in a way because I'm actually coming in on this lap. Like I said, we were 1 lap away on lap 4 from our pit stop window. Oh, so close to the left there. Almost decked it into the wall coming in for the pit stop, but we're in for the early pit stop on this 2-stop, going to the medium tyres. And the thing is, I'm confident that a lot of these people will also be doing a 2-stop. You know, I'm sure Norris and Gasly and one of the racing points at least, and I know the Ferraris like to do a 2-stop around here, so I'm confident a lot of us will be on this strategy. So now for the rest of this race, it's all about efficient driving. We have to make the most of these tyres, especially when we get towards traffic. We need to make sure we get past people as quickly as possible and just make the most of the new rubber versus those guys on older hard tyres and hard tyres to come later on in the race. But now we've got Ocon out the Grand Prix and the full safety car has been called, and that has got my hands behind my head because that is an absolute shocker. That is going to completely change things for us. I was going to say wreck our race, not totally wreck the race for us, but this will surely now play into the hands of Norris, Stroll, Gas, even Albon as we're now into turn 1. We have to slow down for the safety car Delta, and look at that up the road. Norris and Stroll are both past us. They were P2 and P3 on the road. Norris, albeit, was overtaking us for P1 as we entered the pit lane, but they both jumped us now because they got the advantage. Under the safety car, we all drive to the same slow Delta, and so they gain time having a, you know, quote-unquote free pit stop. So we've lost out to those two. The only kind of caveat in this is it looks like Stroll's gone onto hard tyres, so Stroll is going on a 1-stop, but Norris is on softs. Gasly behind us is on softs. So basically, the 2 of the people I'm racing today at the front are on a 2-stop with me. Stroll's gone to a 1-stop, which is very powerful, maybe, in this position now. Because remember, we're all going to bunch up behind the safety car. So effectively, you know, this is some sort of, it is technically an advantage for all of us doing a 2-stop because we now no longer have to make up that extra pit stop, if you know what I mean, because that's getting dissolved by the safety car. But Stroll is put onto hards. Now, he has a very good chance of just getting great track position because he will now be going to the end of the race, I assume, whereas all the rest of us, even me, Norris and Gasly, we've all got 1 more pit stop left because the other people that have stayed out were all those outside the top 10, of course. So, it's going to be very interesting. This has now changed the race in a very big way because now all those 1-stoppers maybe have an easier time of it, and Stroll may just be the dark horse out of this. In the top 5 for a very good chance to maybe now get a good lead in this race later on. So let's watch out for that. The man who we had contact with under the safety car last race, annoyingly, we're now behind him again under a safety car. This time not wanting to hit him, but just trying to make sure we get this restart as nailed on as possible. So we're now on the back straight, still waiting to go green. So I don't know who the leader is. I think it's a Ferrari, but now we go green very late on down the straight. We're almost at the start finish line, and we've only gone green now, so the leader left it really late. It is a Ferrari of Giovinazzi, and we've got it all crossed up there as we nearly hit Stroll again in turn 1, and so much so that Fiat in the Alpine car has dived down the inside of us on hard tyres. Gasly is looking to overtake, and then we've got yellow flags behind us. I think there's been a further incident, and we're going to move on through the later in the lap number 9. We catch back up to Stroll very quickly though, and that's because Verstappen ahead of him, he's on hards, but remember Verstappen started on these hards. He was in P11 on the grid, so Stroll's hards are so much fresher, and so look at that, he makes a bold move round the outside. The two are neck and neck now, and so that's just showing how much slower these old hard tyres are, because ahead of us, Norris has already got into the lead now this race, and Giovinazzi's down to P2 on the road. For us, we're in P5. We need to overtake Verstappen quickly because he's going to be a roadblock for us, and Gasly, his much quicker teammate right now, is right up our chuff. We're literally nose to tail here. We pull out on the right-hand side. Gasly's also trying to follow me through. We get slipstream off Stroll going to the left-hand side of him, and there's been a little bit of contact behind, and Verstappen is across on the circuit, I think, and there's been a huge collision, and there's maybe multiple cars out with a massive crash and a second safety car in this race. Verstappen out, Sainz out, Russell out, De Vries out. It's a big collision. And in the span of one straight, I think that's 5 DNFs. That was a massive crash. And that is why I'm so annoyed that this game broke on us at the end of this race and I couldn't show you any replay cameras. All we have to go off is a replay of my onboard, and we're going to zoom in into the mirror and see what happens. So Verstappen's on the left, and there's just a little bit of contact as we pull out on the left, and Verstappen isn't able to tuck in completely behind us. And of course, the wall is kind of not there at first on the left-hand side, and then it comes through on the left-hand side. So either Verstappen was going to tap us or smash into the wall, basically. But at that point, you know, I was making the move on Stroll. I couldn't go to the right because I thought Gasly was going to be on the right. So I was trying to enable a 3-wide move, but instead, Verstappen got caught up in us. The FI haven't said anything to us about it. It's just a racing incident as far as they're concerned with me and Verstappen. So we've been kind of, you know, dissolved of any kind of fault at that. And in the end, it looks like Verstappen, I guess, spewed across the circuit, it looks like. He basically just got jolted left to right. I think must have taken out multiple cars as he did it, and took out 5 cars with him, or 4 other cars with him. And so we're down to only 15 runners in this Grand Prix then under this second safety car. And at this point in time, I'm very focused on the top right. The delta time was in negative as we went across the line, so I need to try and slow down to make sure we don't get a penalty under this safety car. And I've only just noticed that Norris is in, Gasly is in, and only now does my engineer tell me to come in, as he thinks that's the ideal strategy, to pit under this safety car for hard tyres. And you can guess what Norris and Gasly have done. They've done just that, but now it's not pointless, but now it's going to hurt us because we have to sit behind Giovinazzi and the safety car for one whole lap and lose that advantage of pitting on that previous lap when the safety car didn't actually hold us back. So this is another operational calamity for us as a team. This time it's not my fault, it's my engineer's fault, because I was completely unaware of any sort of strategy that we could do here to get an advantage. But my engineer did, the game calculated it, but it told me way too late. So we come in anyway now on lap 11 onto 12, 1 lap too late basically, because we're now going to be down to P13 on the road behind Mick Schumacher and the Haas, and Norris and Gasly are now a few cars up the road. They're not in the, I think they're both in the top 10, but they're a few cars up the road. They're not quite at the sharp end though, and as I said, a man who's really gained from this is going to be Stroll, because he did not pit, and so I think he's P2 on the road just behind Giovinazzi, and he's going to the end, whereas Giovinazzi's still yet to pit. We've got a load of people on hards ahead of us that are still yet to pit in this Grand Prix for their first ever pit stop, whereas myself, Norris and Gasly have all made 2 stops already, but it's a very different 2-stop because for them, both of their pit stops have been under safety cars, and they've gone from soft to hard. I've gone from soft to medium to hard, because the strategy, and I agree with it, is calculated. It is now the logical thing to go on hards all the way to the end, because from this point, you can comfortably go to the underhards. We've already now basically dissolved any disadvantage we'll get from, you know, not making another pit stop, and this is the way to go. But I'm still very annoyed my team didn't tell me on lap 10, because then I wouldn't have lost maybe 2 or 3 positions here that we have done. And so now we've got a mission to overtake people ahead of us that are on faster compound tyre on these hards to try and catch up to Norris and Gasly. So the race is not over. We've still got a long way to go in this one, but these safety cars have definitely not made my life easy, I must say, and we've still got a lot of work to do if we want to even be anywhere near that sharp end where we qualify. So here we go then on the restart, really trying to get the measure of Schumacher here, because you know, we're going to try and overtake him as we go across the start finish lines. We go green now. We're so far back though, it doesn't feel like we've gone green, but there we are across the line, and now we can make the overtake. I'm going to catch Leclerc napping, who's sat behind Albon, and I'm not going to wait around for the guy because his tyre is clearly not up to temperature. Then we made sure our tyres were green on the temperatures on the heads-up display on the bottom right. Leclerc clearly did not, and we're up into P11. But like I said, we've now got Albon, Matsushita all on soft tyres, ahead Hamilton going slow, a bit of a kerfuffle up the road. So I sense we can get a few positions very quickly and then catch up to Gasly immediately if we play our cards right now in the next lap or two. Leclerc now is up to temperature. He's right behind us now up the chuff. So let's try and navigate this as best we can. Hamilton, our teammate, he's going to come in. He waited till after the pit stops, after the safety car came in. I don't know why, so there we go. Once again, Hamilton not being a great teammate for us. But here we are then, trying to make a move on Albon, who got caught up behind Matsushita. We make a double dive bomb on both those cars on softs, the Alpine and the Racing Point, done in one straight and one corner. And we're up into P8 now, and we now are actually just behind Gasly, so it's a bit of a recovery. Remember, though, we were actually technically ahead of Gasly on the road, though, before all this, so we've still not fully recovered to where we were pre that mistake on the pit stop, and we're really hounding Gasly, who seems to be struggling a lot on these hards, so maybe the Mercedes just doesn't like the harder compounded tyre. We're doing pretty okay, actually. I've not felt too bad saying that I kind of insulted these tyres earlier on in this episode, but at the moment just can't quite find enough traction, that was, on that sector to make a move into that very tricky left-hander that was, the one that Stroll made the move on Verstappen earlier. So we're now just going to wait and sit behind and see. Gasly seems to have a lot of overspeed there. He's probably cranked up his engine into rich mix, I would say, and deploying all the ERS in the world as he goes and overtakes Valtteri Bottas in the AlphaTauri. Can we follow him through maybe and just use him as an aid? Here we go. Easy does it. Just slide the car through into turns 1's apex, and we're up into P6, and Bottas has to fight Albon, and Albon actually gets him straight away on those soft compounded tyres there, so trying to make use of those. And we're actually, speaking of soft compounded tyres, Kvyat ahead of us now. He's also on soft compounded tyres, but remember at the start of this race, those softs really only go for like 4 or 5 laps, so he's already feeling some tyre wear maybe, and Gasly is going for the move. We've got DRS as well, so we're coming through. Can we maybe try and line up a pass on Kvyat in the same way we did on Bottas? Not close enough for turn 1, but let's see how it goes as Kvyat actually gives Gasly a very good fight. Looks like those soft tyres are actually holding up a little bit as the Alpine comes back at the Mercedes car. We get caught up behind Gasly, almost pushing him through turns 2, and now we've got the tow. We're going to make it 3 wide, and we go for the move on the right hand side, on the outside of both those cars. Lock up on the front left, but we dance the car round the outside, and we're up into P4. So in a flash, in a few laps, we've recovered massively from P12 or P13 all the way up to P4, P3 now as Ricciardo comes in. Of course, there were a few cars that did have to pit after that safety car, so they've all come in. So this is how it's going to be. Lance Stroll, like I said, has track position due to being on hards from the very first pit stop in this race. He's in first, Norris second, myself third, Gasly fourth. I think eventually Matsushita will pit from P5, so it will be Leclerc in P5 as he actually overtakes him just then and there on the top left, you can see very nicely. And this is going to be the order to the end. It's going to be all about who can make the most of these hard tyres. As I say that, though, on the very next lap, we've got a virtual safety car because both Haas cars are out. Magnus and Schumacher, have they maybe made contact with each other? I don't know. Unfortunately, I can't show you. I think, if I remember correctly, I think they crashed around the castle section, but obviously I can't show you it because we don't have any replay cameras thanks to the game, but they're both out now. So we've only got 13 runners now in this race. 7 DNFs. It's been a bloodbath here at Azerbaijan. The virtual safety car will end. I was kind of gutted in a way it wasn't a full safety car because that would have helped us bunch up again with Stroll and Norris and would have given us maybe an outside chance to go for the race win, but alas, it's not going to be. It's not meant to be. And now it's going to be a case of I'm going to have to verbally describe to you what's happening in this race basis. So lap 20, you can see in the top left, Leclerc has just overtaken Gasly. So Gasly really struggling at the moment on those hards, and I'm actually doing okay to just keep the gap to Leclerc. Unfortunately, though, I'm not gaining on Norris or Stroll. Those two are in a world of their own when it comes to pace. And in terms of Norris v Stroll, look at that, top left, Norris has overtaken Stroll now for the race lead with only 5 laps to go. But remember, if you overtake a car on this straight into turn 1, the car following has DRS for turns 3 on that second straight, and that's exactly what's happened. Stroll has re-overtaken Norris, and he's back up into first. So the Aston Martin livery Racing Point car putting up a big fight against the McLaren. Both these guys going for their first race win of this season. And on lap 24 now, you can see behind us, Gasly re-overtakes Leclerc. So Gasly had a bit of a wobble, not liking these hards, but now he's found that pace back again, and he's re-overtaken Leclerc. Meanwhile, Norris was leading this entire time now for these next few laps, but he's now, as I say that, just been overtaken once again back by Stroll. So Stroll is back in the lead of this Grand Prix as it stands going into the second last lap of this Grand Prix. So those two are going to be fighting all the way to the end as we lock up very badly, but see on the top of this screen, Ricciardo and Bottas are now out. So they've had some sort of collision. This time I don't know actually where this was on the circuit. I guess we'll find out if we drive past them on this lap. But that's 2 further DNFs. So we've got 9 DNFs in this Grand Prix. There are only 11 runners. This is absolutely crazy. I'm so upset and annoyed the game crashed on us at the end that I can't show you any of it on the replay cameras. It would have been the perfect race to have replay cameras for, to show you what the AI are doing. Alas, not the case. So we continue on then, and we continue to watch on the top left of what Stroll and Norris are doing. And if Gasly and Leclerc are going to fight for the race lead and second place and 4th and 5th respectively. But yellow flags! Oh my god, is that... Oh, it actually, you can't make this stuff up. Leclerc has gone slow. Yellow flags for the Ferrari man, the championship leader with a 10-point lead going into this race. He's out. I think he's out. We've not got the confirmation yet. There we go. Finally, I think it's going to come through eventually that Leclerc is out of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. He's retired with a mechanical failure on the second last lap. Gasly is solidifying P4. Giovinazzi, his teammate, the Ferrari teammate, up into P5. And that's going to be massive for the championship to completely erode that 10-point gap. And it's still not over yet because there's still the question mark of who's going to win this Grand Prix. Because remember, this is Baku. This is a very unique last sector where the man behind can have a great slingshot and a great chance to overtake as they go towards the start-finish straight. And Norris, you can see in the top left, he's 4 tenths behind Stroll. Is he going to do it? On the line. We wait. There it is. Norris has overtaken Stroll on the line. It could have been a photo finish. We don't know yet because I can't see anything up the road. We don't have a replay camera. And here is the proof to you guys that I saved this race midway through, but I do that as a force of habit most races now and just don't show you it. So we do finish the race in 3rd place, and this is the proof to you guys that I had to actually redo this in terms of I had to reload this race in the mid-session, and I'll show you why in a second. But this is how it looks when you do a mid-session save. You reboot yourself into the race. At the point I saved it, Norris goes and wins the race then. Stroll 2nd place, 10 runners in this Grand Prix, but it's a race win across the line, and I've got the replay camera of literally just this last part of the race that I reloaded into, and so this is the only thing I can show you from any other car, but look how close this is. Literally a few tenths, Norris overtook Stroll on the left as they crossed the line. And so, for the second time now, obviously, remember in real life, Stroll got overtaken by Bottas at Baku like that, and Norris did here in this game, and this is why I had to do that mid-session save, because this is normally the screen where the race results load, and what I got was nothing. The cutscenes for the podium and for everything came through, they loaded in, I could see, you know, the podium of Norris, Stroll, myself, and then the game simply, for some reason, just didn't load into the race results to let me, you know, see the replay cameras, let me advance and save the race properly, and so that's why I had to reboot the race from that, you know, safety net I did on the main straights. That's why there were no replay cameras, unfortunately. You know, as I said, would have been so good for a race like this with 10 DNFs to see what craziness the AI were doing to have 10 DNFs, and also to see that final lap, unfortunately, in all its glory. But there you go then. Lando Norris wins it on the last lap from Stroll. We come home in P3 in a race that only had 10 finishers.
It's never an easy race here in Azerbaijan. There's drama around every corner, but they've come through to take a brilliant win here today. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
Well, the safety car completely changed the race, didn't it? It's hard to say exactly what would have happened without it, but there's no question that they came out of that situation in a good position.
As the winners make their way up to the podium, one can only imagine the celebrations that will take place at McLaren tonight. Congratulations to everyone on the team, securing the win and proving they're a force to be reckoned with out on the track.
So Norris gets his first win of the season, McLaren's second win. Very weirdly, McLaren not even that high in the championship right now, but they've got 2 wins this season. The most out of any team, of course. Only repeat winning team. Stroll in second place. Such a shame for him because he led most of that race because of that, you know, obviously being on hard tyres from literally the first pit stop, whereas all of us did 2-stop, you know, did a very weird 2-stop under safety cars. But somehow we came back through for P3. Now, I'm not that disappointed. I'm a little bit disappointed about P3 because I think we could have maybe gone on to win that race if it wasn't for the blunders we made under the safety cars again. But at the same time, it was just such a crazy race that, you know what, I'll take P3. I'll take the championship lead because Leclerc, I can't believe our luck. I can't believe that. Leclerc with a random generated failure that, you know, nothing can control that apart from you. The game decides that. And Leclerc has the failure on the second last lap, even after there already being 9 DNFs. So there were a total of 10 DNFs, including Sainz, Verstappen, Leclerc, obviously, Bottas, Ricciardo, you know, both Red Bulls with DNFs. Massive shame for Red Bull. What a crazy race. What a crazy one. And it means we lead the championship. We are in P3 only, though, in the constructors, as once again Hamilton doesn't really pull his weight. He gets another P7 though. I think he's got 3 P7s in a row, which is okay, but it's still just not enough, I think, to fight for the championship in the constructors. You know, he just needs to be doing better. No, it's P7's good. I like the fact he's been consistently getting P7, but I really want to see him step up and convince me that he can do more, because at the moment I'm just not seeing enough. But what a crazy race. I'm just so upset that the replay cameras couldn't be included because of the way we had to do the ending there. But it is what it is. You guys still got to, you know, get an essence of how crazy that race was for me to sit inside and race in the cockpit, because my jaw was on the floor when I saw Leclerc DNF, because that was just it for me. Seeing 10 DNFs in this career mode, and then also going on to see Norris overtake Stroll on the line by looking on the top left simply, not even visually seeing it, was just so much suspense. And I hope it was the same for you guys. But if you did enjoy it, then smash the like button. It honestly might be one of the craziest career mode races we've had in a long time. And like I said, just upsetting we couldn't see it in all its glory. But if you're only around here, do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. Let me know what you thought of that one. And I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.